Live from Miami, Florida.
I am Linda.
And I am Bella.
And this is our podcast, Mostly Peaceful Latinas, where every week we will discuss current events, politics, pop culture,
and everything else related to the state of the clown world.
Welcome to another week with Mostly Peaceful Latinas. I'm Linda.
And I'm Bella.
And we're really excited to be here today because we have a very special guest, our friend Rob Gonzalez. And Rob is running for state rep in District 119 here in Miami. And we're going to ask him all sorts of questions about his campaign, America First agenda. And as you guys know, we've been extremely proponents of getting involved locally and replacing all the old guard, all the rhinos with America First candidates. And this is someone that we met last year that started a movement with us in Miami of getting patriots together. Every single month, we were getting hundreds of people in a room and taking action, holding our local politicians accountable. And now we are excited to see him run as a state rep because, believe it or not, a lot of people don't know this, but the Florida legislature is actually full of rhinos and people who oftentimes go against DeSantis' agenda, which is extremely annoying. So with that being said, I want Rob to do a quick little intro for us before we get into a couple of discussions.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me, because for me, this is an honor, because I've seen you guys go from being influential in the community to influencing people online to legitimately starting a movement to protest at our local school boards, protest against, bad policies, protest against bad mayors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now the fact that you have this show and you're just opening so many people's eyes, it's incredible to me, because I think that this is exactly what everyone should be doing, especially the youth, right? I think that the reason that our country is in a bad place is because we have not been involved. Let's be honest, right? We haven't been involved. We haven't actually seen what is going on behind that curtain of politics. Right. Most people, and I was guilty of it too, most people were just like, hey, man, I just want to make money, right? I want to make sure my kids are good. I want to make sure my family's good. And that's it. Leave me alone. Go do you in politics. And meanwhile, we had all these politicians literally selling us out, selling out the country, selling out laws, selling out our children. And all of a sudden, we wake up one day and our country's almost gone, right? Yep. But the republic doesn't work if we don't get involved.
Doesn't it feel like it's come full circle? Like, I remember that first meeting. Linda and I we saw a flyer for the APC meeting that Rob had put together with his partner. And it was right after the installment of the current cabbage. And I remember that there was this sense of just being lost.
Right.
We had no idea, we had the wind kicked out of us. Like, right. What do we do now? Like, the right thing did not happen. The right man is not in office. We did everything right, and yet somehow the system failed us.
Right.
And I remember the energy in that first APC meeting where it was almost like,
where do we go from here?
Where do we go? What do we do? It was just like, we need to
here?
figure something out. We need to figure something out where we're not leaving the saving of the republic to a politician or someone outside of us. We were really all came together there as regular citizens that realized that if we wanted a change, we were going to have to do something actionable together.
100%.
And now, fast forward a year, a whole lot of stuff has happened since then.
And I think it's important what you said about being accountable for not being involved in local politics, because one thing I have seen over and over again, especially in the online echo chambers, is people trying to blame, or not so much blame, but everyone now is what is it called? Controlled opposition.
Controlled opposition.
And everything is rigged and everyone's bad and everyone is this. And it's like a lot of these... Some of these may be true, right? We don't deny that.
Right.
But a lot of this is just an excuse for people to blame everything but themselves for not being involved in their civil, duty, in the civic process. You can see that when it comes to the school board people. What are they called? The school board, the elected members of the school board. Why? Some of them have been there for 25 years.
Right.
So if people were actually involved in their local politics, there's absolutely no way that you would allow someone to stay empowered for 25 years.
Right.
Especially when you have noticed the decay in this public schools.
Right.
And I think that it was a huge testimony of what we were actually able to do, because through these APC meetings is when we mobilize people to be like, hey, if you want change when it comes to what's going on in your kids' schools, it started with the masks or was it the mandates or whatever it was, then you're gonna have to get involved. And here we are a year later, right? I think it's almost a year. I don't even think it's been a full year.
It has been a year because, it's April.
It's April. So it's going to be a year this month.
Year.
And
wow, this is nuts. It's going to be a year this month.
Yeah. And now look at how much we've done. So Perla Tavares has decided that she will not be running for re-election at the school board. So that's the 26 years old, 26 years
25 years old for our
25 years sitting on the board.
For our listeners, and I'm sure Miami-Dade or not Miami-Dade, this lady she's a Republican. She's been in power for 25 years. And finally, she's decided to step down because there is a DeSantis-backed person who's going to run against her. She knows she has no chance. So the best thing for her to do is to leave gracefully and just step down after 25 years, which is a lot longer than Vladimir Putin has been in power. FYI. So, just in case.
Speaking of people bowing out gracefully, let's talk about Alberto Carvalho, the superintendent who for a very long time ignored the cries for parents to remove masks and shut the mics of parents at meetings and all these other things. And what ended up
and refused to take action.
Refused to take action was before we got involved. The year before we got involved, Alberto Carvalho was selected as the superintendent of the year at a national level.
Right.
And within a few months of us getting involved, they realized that we were going to find it all, and they realized that we were going to expose it all. So when the story started breaking about the lawsuits that were being paid out to kids that had been abused at these schools and that had been forced to sign these these non-disclosures in order to remain quiet about the fact that teachers that had abused him had been shuffled around in the school system, he knew he wasn't going to survive that. Yeah. So it was our direct efforts that pushed Carvalho to leave Miami-Dade County for LA United.
Right. And there's another one that I don't know his name yet, but I do know that there's a second person who's also backed by DeSantis, who's going to run for a school board position here in Miami-Dade. And also DeSantis just appointed a new Secretary of Education, one of our own here.
Yeah. Manny
Diaz. So there's been a lot of interesting and positive changes in Miami-Dade. It's obviously, I think, Democrats, they look at the long-term plan.
Correct.
Right? And they understand that in able to get to what they want, they have to put in the work.
Yeah.
Whereas Republicans, they want that short-term wins.
Yeah, right. And I mean, we're talking about the party that remained the silent majority and was okay with that for a very long time.
And to be honest with you, I think that is what we need to bring into politics, right? I think as Republicans, we need to be able to voice our opinion more and be proud of the fact that we're conservatives.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like so many conservatives for many years have not become activists, right? And I see you guys, and I see the fact that you're activists, and you go out there, you protest, you expose, and you do everything that you can in order to make sure that your views and your word gets heard, right? For so many years as conservatives, we kind of played this game where we knew that we were right? We knew that we were proposing good laws, right? But we weren't going to fight. We were going to fight for them. And you even see it with the parental rights bill, how the Democrats came and they flipped the parental rights bill and they called it the Don't Say Gay bill for absolutely no reason. Absolutely no reason. Right? And then you have people like DeSantis, who is able to flip that. I feel like Trump kind of gave us the blueprint, right?
Yes.
And the blueprint is actually speak your word. Because when you speak your word and you're speaking from the heart and you're actually trying to make a difference and you're actually trying to do good, guess what? Many people are going to agree with you, right? And you're going to find that there are more people on your side than are on the dark side, right? For lack of a better word.
Yeah, there is definitely a lot more than that.
Rob, tell us a little bit, what was kind of your biggest inspiration to decide to run? Because I remember last year you were toying with the idea and you're like, I'm not sure, I'm thinking about it. So what was, what's kind of been the defining moment that made you, that led to the decision of like, I need to run and I need to run now?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. For a long time, I didn't want to do it. And the reason I didn't want to do it is because I don't need this, right? I don't need this. I'm a successful attorney. I'm 35 years old. I have a law firm. I have attorneys that work for me. I have paralegals that work for me. I have a beautiful, gorgeous, amazing wife. I have two beautiful, gorgeous, amazing, incredibly intelligent daughters. I literally, God has blessed me so much. There is nothing more than that I need to be happy, except the fact that I feel like our country's in trouble, right? And I feel like God has called me to at least try to make a difference. And you know what? I don't know whether I'm going to win. I don't know whether I'm going to lose. I feel like I'm going to win because I feel like God has called me to do this. But at the end of the day, the only thing I want to do is I want to inspire everyday people because I'm a regular dude from Miami, bro.
Yeah.
Like I'm a regular Miami guy,
Yeah, you're one
right?
of us.
The
You're one
vibe.
of us.
That's why he's gonna win, because we're done with dusty politics. We want
And
fresh
to-
faces. Fresh. What was it that you posted yesterday? You posted make
Make
Republicans
Republicans
fresh
fresh
again,
again.
because
Yeah.
it's true.
I mean, I look at Mitch McConnell when we
Dusty.
don't even know. It's not even dusty. It's like, is he even alive? It's like a corpse.
Hello.
It's a dinosaur. Like it's.
And you know
like a
what? This is
reptile.
something that the Democrats have been really good at, right? They've been really good at trying to play the youth, to tell the youth that they're cool, right?
Yeah.
But they've been doing it with the wrong policy. So you have this group of young people that believe that they understand politics until they debate somebody who knows politics, like Linda, like Issa, like myself, right? When we get in front of these people and we start going back and forth about what the policies are and what economics means, right? And what legislation means, they have no way of coming back, right? So you have a whole bunch of young AOCs who think they understand politics because they think it's cool, but they have no idea what's going on. Whereas you have people like us who actually get informed. We read, we look into economics, we look into foreign policy. We've seen that what Trump has done in 4 years is probably better than any other president in the history of
that's
the
like
United
50
States.
years.
Right.
And you can't deny that, right? You don't like the way he tweets? Well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Do you like paying $90 at the gas tank every time you go? Is that what you like, right? Do you like seeing empty shelves in the United States of America, the greatest country that has ever existed in the history of humanity? Like, is that what you really want, right? Do you like going to war? You like warmongers? That's what you really want? Because when we had a leader in the White House, we didn't have any of this crap, right? So at the end of the day, what I really think we need is to inspire the youth and show the youth that this is cool. It's cool to be a good guy, man. It's cool to be
a family man.
a
To be a
family
man, to believe in Christ.
let me
to
tell
be
you.
a man of faith. Like, these are things that are cool. Again, I've
This is a counterculture.
Natalie Denise has something that she says all the time, which is that conservatism is a new punk rock. Like,
I
we
love it.
are the group that's like ostracized, and if you're a conservative, they want to cancel you, and you're a bad guy. And it's like, this is what's cool now. This is what the establishment doesn't want. The establishment doesn't want family values to be cool again, to be, believing in God to be cool again. They don't want that. That's a threat to them, and that's why we're a threat to them.
And let me tell you, that is true happiness. And I can tell you 1,000% that there is nothing better than going home to your family and not having to worry about anything, man, right? I don't want to be at the club till 2:00 in the morning. Respectfully to anybody who does, there's nothing there, right? There's nothing there. That's not going to make you happy. What's going to make you happy is, earning a good living, right? Having good morals, not having to worry about whether you're going to get in trouble or you're going to do this or you're going to do that. Or what really makes you happy is having a relationship with God, having a good family, and being there for your kids. That, I guarantee you, try it. I guarantee you it will make you happy.
Make the Western man great again.
And something that you said right now about going home to a family and stuff like that. That is actually, in the accounts that we follow, like this new trad conservative
It's an entire movement.
It's an entire movement of not just traditional values in the religion sense, but also health-wise.
Health-wise, and men being
aesthetics
masculine again,
of
and
people working out, of eating better, because people are more conscious now that many things aside from like technology and social media and whatnot, but the water's affecting you, the soil, the food, stuff like that. So there's a very large movement right now online, and even Tucker Carlson had an episode, I think it was just like 3 weeks ago, about like studying your balls. I know it's not part of our conversation, but it wasn't just about that, but it was just about all the different things that these trad men are doing online to be more masculine.
And again, to create the subculture where it is cool to embrace these traditional masculine roles for men,
Right.
again, make masculinity great again. Having men that want to be home with their families, that do believe in God, that want to take care of themselves, that don't want to be, in front of a computer watching porn or eating, McDonald's or whatever it is, and which is a culture that's really been sold to Americans as a
Right.
way of distracting us and subduing us and making us weak.
And keeping us down, man.
Yeah.
Keeping us down, because I mean, I feel like a lot of us grew up in this culture where they just, they shoved all these concepts into our mind and told us that it was going to make us happy, right? They told us that, going out till 4 o'clock in the morning was going to make us happy. They told us that clubbing and drinking and all these things were going to make us happy, when in reality, a lot of us have grown up and we found out that they were lying to us.
Yeah.
And now we'll be damned if we allow them to do that to our kids, right?
You know what's funny? There's an account, I think it's Garbage Human on Instagram, and what they do is whenever they see like a feminist or somebody like a leftist, like a crazy post, like either it's pro-abortion or the trans rights, whatever, something that it's causes kind of like that shock value, they go on Twitter and they search for the word depression, because on Twitter you can like search for old tweets and then find their tweets. And then he'll post like all the tweets of that person being extremely depressed. So like, do you understand what I mean?
Tying this extreme, modern feminism.
And them saying like, oh, I've been depressed.
I don't need a man. I don't need a family. I don't need anything.
I've been
And then he's
depressed
been
for the last
depressed.
6 months. I take this drug. Like he always goes and
Showcasing it.
shows how mentally unstable and just overall sad these people are.
Right. And you know what? I feel like I feel like it could be deliberate, because, the family values, American family values, are really the backbone of this country.
Of every nation.
Right? Of humanity, right?
yeah.
Of humanity, right? When you have a strong family, like I had a great family. My parents were, you guys have met my parents. My parents were incredible. And my parents instilled this belief in me that, hey man, you can do anything that you want to do in this country.
You're a first generation American.
I'm a first generation American, right? My mom cleaned houses her entire life. My dad busted his butt in 3 jobs at a time so that I could have a shot at the American dream. And growing up, it was almost like, bro, you better not let this slip.
Yeah, that's
right?
how my mom was.
Yeah,
Right?
you didn't have an opportunity.
So
Like, I didn't
crazy.
come over here. I didn't drag my butt over here so that you can be lazy and not do something.
Yeah.
Like, you have to make something of this opportunity that we created for you.
And let me tell you, I feel like that is why why we are so on fire for this country, right? Because we see the great things that it did for our parents. We see the pride in
A lot
their
of it
eyes.
is actually, whether people want to admit it or not, it's and I don't want to sound like it's just because we're Latino, but there is that factor, at least for me as an immigrant, and I'm I was born in another country.
Me too.
And I tell people all the time, sure, economic opportunity is always the main reason why people come here, but also security.
Right.
So like, whereas some people may be screaming on the streets to all cops are bastards and, F the police and defund the police, it's like, have you ever lived in another country like
Where the
I
police is
did,
corrupt?
where number one and number two, where you can't take out your phone to film on the street because
Right.
you're going to get robbed, possibly shot? The last time I went to visit my family, I was going to go jogging around my aunt's neighborhood, which is a nice, like, upscale neighborhood. And they were like, I was walking out with my headphones, the wire ones. And they told me not to go jogging with the headphones because I was going to get my stuff stolen.
Right.
So a lot of these Americans, whether it's born, parents were immigrants and there's a first generation, or just, other type of backgrounds, they just don't appreciate that.
Right.
They don't.
Right.
So they have the luxury of saying F all cops, defund the police, and they don't understand that many of us come here looking for security.
Right.
To be safe.
Right. And that all those things make up this great nation, right? Security, freedom of speech, right? The family values, all these things make it so that this is the greatest country in the world. We can say what we want. We can do what we want as long as we don't harm other people, right? And we have the opportunity to literally, sky's the limit, man. You want to be a millionaire? You want to be a billionaire? You can do it. You can do it in this country if you work hard, if you're honest, and you do everything in your power to get to the next level. You can absolutely do it. Whereas in other countries, you don't. So I think that when you understand that this is not the norm, right? And you read history and you understand that this is an anomaly. This is literally a miracle of God that this country exists. When you understand those things, listen, they're going to have to kill me if they want to take this away from me. They're not going to take this country away from me.
And there's something really interesting happening now, which is the new right. Vanity Fair just wrote an article. I think it came out May 1st, talking about the new right, which is no longer just the party of Trump. It's not the party of Bush. And it's a more, they kind of categorize it as a more intellectual brand of the right.
Well, because it's a party that's had to adapt to bring a more eclectic group of people in. Like everybody used to think about Republicans and the right. And what did they think about? They thought about like dusty old white men that didn't want people to smoke pot and didn't want gay people to get married. And that was it. That's what the Republican Party stood for. And now it's like people are waking up and they're like, wait a minute, when they said that Republicans were conservatives, what they meant was conservation of this republic. It's conserving the way that this country operates.
Amen. And abiding by the Constitution.
Correct. And I think that more people have become aware of that.
There's a new right.
There's also
for sure
the conversation we've had.
From the Trump era, there's a lot more.
Well, I feel like Trump did that.
Trump did that.
I disagree. I think the left did that. It's a conversation we've had often, which is where the left has moved so far left that it does not allow people to be a moderate anymore. And so because it's given people no other choice but choose communism or else, you're a bigot, then it's forced people to move towards conservatism because conservatism ends up being the moderate party to some degree compared to extreme socialist communists, which is what they want to impose on the rest of us.
No, I see what you're saying. Because like when I was growing up in the 90s, I mean, police officers are heroes, right?
Mm-hmm. That's the way we saw it in Colombia. Like we always
they're heroes.
Right. Kids wanted to grow up and be firefighters or cops.
I wanted to be a cop when I grew up. I wanted to be a firefighter. The only regret I have in my life is not joining the military. You get what I'm saying?
We used to stand up for cops, and like when cops back in the day, they used to walk in and people would like stand up and stuff like that.
I saw a video.
Thank them for their service. I remember my father seeing cops in restaurants, and he would thank regular cops for their service sitting at restaurants. There was a certain level of respect for law and order, for law and order. It was respected and people wanted it. People still want law and order.
Amen.
Let's not get it twisted. The media is the one that's twisted perceptions that somehow law and order is tied to white supremacy. But people want law and order. Even liberals will pick up the phone the minute that they feel. I mean, how many times is it Antifa? Call cops to feel harassed by you. It's like, don't you people hate cops? Don't you people say?
Well, Antifa has collaborated with the FBI to get January 6 people detained.
The detained and arrested. Correct.
They literally have threats online on Twitter. Working with the FBI has thanked them, saying that without the job of these amazing citizens, they would have never gotten that many people jailed. They were so understaffed because these people helped them.
We're generating so many leads to so many people for J6 that there wasn't enough prosecutors for them.
And you know what? I feel like these are the things that every human being is looking for, right? Every human being is looking, like Linda was saying earlier, right? They're looking for security. They're looking for a place where their kids can go out and play in the streets, right? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I was growing up, we were outside all the time. Kids don't do that anymore, right? It's almost like
I was an only child. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere.
I was outside all the time, and it's almost like nowadays the media, or I don't know what, has convinced us that these family values don't exist. It's not safe outside, right? It's better if you're inside, you're on the iPad, you're online, and there is a tremendous pushback to bring back the country that we so love dearly. And that's really the reason I'm running. The reason I'm running is because I cannot just sit on my hands and watch these people take my country for me.
Yeah.
And take it from
can't.
your daughters.
And
'Cause
take
more
it from-
important, imagine
100%.
the idea that your daughters would never know America as it is. That they would never know the American experiment. That somehow, when your daughters are old enough to give you grandchildren, that America stops being what it is. What a tragedy!
Right.
That would truly be.
Right. And we can't let that happen.
Look,
No.
speaking of white supremacy and right-wing extremists, because now anybody who is, the way that the left is anybody who's right on me is a right-wing extremist.
Correct.
MSNBC put out an article this weekend, and they warn of right-wing extremists weaponizing motherhood. Motherhood. Why is that? Once again, it's because we have seen the shift in politics in mothers getting involved, taking the lead at the school boards, especially, and in local politics. So you have these moms who are angry seeing what's being taught to their children, whether it's a CRT, whether it's the gender studies and whatnot. The Moms for Liberty is the #1 enemy of the media right now. They have tried so hard. If you go online and you search Moms for Liberty on Google and look at news, you're going to see how much the media hates these women because they are bringing justice in the school system.
Well, I mean, let's look at the clown world that we live in for just a second. Joe Biden labeled parents at school board meeting domestic terrorists. This is where we're living at.
So it's really the people, the people like you, a parent, a mother, a regular citizen that has become a right-wing extremist and the biggest threat to the Washington, D.C. regime.
Well, that's why what we were just talking about, right? Which is that at this point, everybody is right wing. So it's like it loses everybody's desensitized to it. It's like you're an insurrectionist, you're a QAnon, you're whatever. It's like nobody cares anymore. Like the politics are dusty on every side. Like,
listen, if you want to call me a conspiracy theorist because I don't want my children to be told that they don't understand, because I don't want you to teach my children about sex, right? Or because I don't want you to tell my children that they are by default racist, right? Or because I don't want my children to be given sexual books to read in school. If you want to call me a conspiracy theorist over that, then by all means do that. If you want to
slap
label
on the
me,
tinfoil hat and call me Alex Jones.
Whatever you want to call me, I'm not going to allow the government to control my children. And
100.
the Constitution specifically says that we should not do that, right? Those decisions should be in the hands of the parents, right? And it's exactly like Linda's saying, is exactly like you're saying. This is why all the parents are fighting back. This is why all the youth is coming out and saying, man, look, this is not the America I grew up in. And I'm not about this. I'm not about this. I don't care how dope AOC's Instagram is. I really don't care because that's wrong and that's dumb. And I'm not dumb.
Did you see, this ties in with this subject. Did you guys see that AP had to put out an article saying that the public schools and districts are suffering from all the losses of children who are being homeschooled or being, placed in private schools? So they're taking a hit. Taking a hit.
My kid, my eldest daughter was in a great charter school, which, by the way, I am a champion for charter schools. I think charter schools are probably the best thing that ever happened to Florida, right? But aside from that, she was going to a great charter school. Because of certain school board decisions, I took my daughter out of that charter school and put her into a private school, right? My daughter today, if I tell you where she's at academically, it's ridiculous. But here's the problem, right? I'm a product of the public school system. I remember when I stopped learning math, right? It was 7th grade. Her name was Miss Chacon. She didn't understand algebra. And because she didn't understand algebra, and I am trying to ask her questions about algebra, right? She couldn't explain it. And she would literally just say, hey, put your hand down because I'm not answering questions right now. I'm answering questions at the end. But then the end would come and we would never answer questions, right? And this is all due to the fact that our education system, number one is not being funded correctly, right? We need to fund it correctly, and you know what we need to do? We need to pay the right teachers more money. That's what we need to do.
Absolutely.
That's the only way we're going to be able to compete with the private school system.
Think of the cycle that it creates for these teachers. It's like, of course they're communist. They're broke. I've talked about this often. The starting they pushed it up. The starting salary for many years, up until just a few years ago, for a teacher was $35,000. I'm a recruiter. I place receptionists in Brickell that make more money than that.
Dude, you don't even have to go there. I'm going to tell you why. Because when I was in 10th grade, I had a phenomenal English teacher. She was amazing, man. She was amazing. She was one of these what's one of those movies? What's one of those movies where whatever, man. But there's like so many of these movies where these teachers like really touch your heart and they freaking make you get into reading and get into writing. She was one of these people, right? She literally would call my mom like, "Hey, man, you need to let this guy write because he knows, he's gonna be somebody." And it was the first time that anybody ever really believed in me on an academic level, right? So halfway through the school year, she literally quit to go be a realtor, and she told us straight up. She told us straight up that she had to quit not because of us. And she made it very clear, I'm not quitting because of you guys. I love this job. I love you guys. I appreciate the fact that I'm able to teach you, but I'm going to have to make a financial decision for my family. That is ingrained in my brain, man. It's ingrained in my brain. And it's such a shame because it's literally the key to our future. The more we invest in our children, the more that we allow our children to succeed, the better our future is going to be. And it's almost like there's this push to keep our children down. Why, man? Why?
Because they're easier to control that way.
Yeah. With that being said, you just spoke about like the charter schools and stuff like that. Like, what are some of the policies that you think you would either sponsor or back up, for education,
Well, number
like that?
one, just like you were saying earlier, I am 1000% about parental choice, right? We, and actually Trump championed this and DeSantis is championing this, right? I am 1000% about allowing parents to put their children in the school that they feel is best for their children, right? And that goes on both ends of the aisle, right? If you want to start a charter school that teaches people about gay rights and somebody wants to go into that school, then by all means do that. You want to create a private school that talks about CRT, bro, somebody sign up for that school. My kids are not going to that school, but somebody sign. If you can get people to go, get people to go. If you want to put your child in a private school that teaches children about God, then by all means you should be able to do it. You want to educate your kids at home, you should be able to do it. I can't tell you how many parents I run into every day that have pulled their children out of the traditional public school system, and it's such a shame because as America, we're supposed to have the greatest access to education, right? As opposed to any other country, and we're letting it slip through our fingers. We need to give parents the choice to put their kids where they want their children to go, and give parents the choice to allow their kids to succeed and get to the next level.
Yeah, parental choice, I think it's incredibly important because what it does is that it opens up the competitiveness between the schools. So a lot of
businesses.
the times, right, just like businesses. So it's, I always use the example of the DMV. It's like, is the service suck at the DMV? Did you have to wait in line? Was the person rude? Cool. Do you have an option to go anywhere else? No. So welcome to stay funded. Like, that's the way that it works. There is no competitive value to it. The minute that you add the factor of competition, if the DMV had somewhere where you went and they made you tea and they put a nice little waiting room for you and they gave you a little number and they told you could come back in 30 minutes, we're going to text you, and they gave you a little buzzard. If that was the kind of experience you had at the DMV, you would never go to a state-funded DMV again. Right. Again, because it opens up, or what it would happen is that then the DMV, the state-funded DMV, then has to force itself to be more competitive so it can keep up with this new DMV alternative that's provided to you. So by giving parents vouchers and giving them the parental choice and not just choosing a school, that a mom can say, how about I take this money
100%.
and I teach my kid what's best for them. That right there opens up the bargaining that parents need in order to have a seat at the table when decisions are made when it comes to the school.
Let me tell you,
because right now they don't have it. It's the schools and the teachers union, and parents are not involved.
Right. My best friend actually started homeschooling his kids last year. And there's actually a documentary coming out pretty soon with Kirk Cameron about this phenomenon of people just homeschooling their kids, right? And how they become successful. Tim Tebow was homeschooled, right? And everybody thinks about homeschool kids as, oh, they're so weird, and there's that awkwardness where what if they can't associate with society because they can't integrate? No, man, no. Your parents know best. At least my parents knew best when I was growing up, and it's the things that my parents instilled in me that made me succeed in life, right? And my parents wouldn't have been involved, then guess what? I would have probably been like most of the kids that grew up in my
Another
neighborhood.
statistic down here in Miami. You
Like
would've
most
got
of the
involved,
kids I
right.
grew up with.
So I've seen, honestly, the whole homeschool and even home birth kind of revolution is something that I picked up and I learned online. It was through social media when I started following these
anti-vaxxers.
Christians and the anti-vaxxers and these Christian women and families and stuff like that, and seeing honestly, before then I didn't really understand the concept of homeschool, or even thought that many people did it. Same thing with home birth. And now I watch these mothers, many of them, and they're so logical. They're like, first of all, 8 hours for a kid, especially when they're very young, we're talking about pre-K and stuff like that, elementary school, it's a waste of time.
It's so nuts because
it's a waste of time and it's a waste of energy. And then I see my friend Talia, she has 3 kids. They moved to the middle of nowhere, so they're off grid, whatever. And her schedule it's so cool. They are learning stuff, but also they're spending time outside. You know what I mean? They're doing different things that the normal average kid sitting inside of a desk for 8 hours is just not doing.
You know what's wild to me? That both home births and homeschooling are both born from a distrust of our organizations
System.
that we're supposed to trust. You can't trust the hospitals because most moms will choose not to do they will choose to have a home birth because they don't trust what they're going to see at the hospital or how they're going to be treated at the hospital. And you've got parents pulling their kids out of schools because they don't trust these school systems anymore. This is where we're at. There's a complete distrust of the system, which I think is good. I think that for a very long time, we were very trusting that somebody
doing the right
more
thing.
prepared, smarter than us, who had been in politics longer, had it figured out. And we trusted that blindly.
Right.
What a doctor told us, what we saw in 2020 with the pandemic was that people started realizing, wait a minute, do you actually know what you're talking about? Or were you just handed a pamphlet this morning that you're reading from? Is this what you're selling me? Is this what the guy that came to drop off pens last week, is this what you're pushing for me because it's actually good for me or because it's good for money purposes? And I think that general distrust that we're seeing for everything,
It's actually driving people like him to run.
It's driving
That's actually
people.
why.
It's like-
driving people like him to run and to get involved and a normal person. No longer are we thinking that you have to be in politics for 30, 40 years, 10 years, whatever, and able to run for a position, especially when we know that a lot of these people, they never even did anything before. They never built a business. They never did anything before just starting to get paid by our tax dollars.
Right.
That's how they get rich. Look at Nancy Pelosi.
Right. Back in the day, you would have people like Abraham Lincoln, you would have people like George Washington and Benjamin Franklin. These people were statesmen, right? So a statesman would be somebody who would be out there, trying to do good for the country because they wanted to do good for the country, not because they wanted to get rich, right? But it's like that saying, right? Because you guys just reminded me of this quote where it says, it says good times create weak people. Right.
Men, yeah.
And then weak men, right? Good times create weak men, right? Weak men create bad times, right? Bad times create strong men create good times, right? And I feel like that's what's happened to us for so long because we've been disconnected from the politics. We've been trusting people like for example, like Bernie Sanders, who's never had a job in his life, but is a multimillionaire. How? Right?
Well, how does anybody in politics become a multimillionaire when you're supposed to be a public servant? I think that's, when we talk about term limits, Like, that's the biggest thing that sticks out to me. It's like, wait a minute, you're supposed to be a public servant. How did you become a millionaire? And can you move out of the way so that somebody else can take your seat for a little while and maybe somebody else can have a shot?
100%. And you know what else it taught us, especially COVID? If COVID has taught us anything, it's that our local politics is the most important part.
I know you're preaching to the choir here in this table.
100%.
Nothing is more important.
Right.
The time that we lived through COVID. We saw what happened when the president said, we're going to let the states do whatever it is that they individually want. And then we saw Ron DeSantis, the most base governor, the freest corner in the entire
Greatest
world,
governor in
Florida.
history.
And what were we doing? Oh, that's right. We were wearing masks. You were getting fined at the beach for walking without a mask. Like, people were fighting with me at grocery stores for going in without a mask. Like, because it didn't matter.
Versailles wanted me to wear a mask to get the cafecito outside in the ventanita. It was like,
That's
it
ridiculous.
was honestly like a slap in the
I
face.
almost got into a fight at La
fucked
Carreta
off,
one
to be
time.
honest with you.
I almost got into a fight at La Carreta one time over the mask. And
I had to stop
Rob
you.
had to step in. Rob had to step in and be like, whoa. We got the whole thing under control. Because I was like letting Papi know, like, you got me all wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not. But I think that was such a highlight to show that it's like, here we are with based Daddy Trump, based Daddy DeSantis, and yet we still have to deal with Gala telling us that we have to wear masks. So it didn't matter who the president was. It didn't matter who the governor was. None of it mattered. What mattered was who the local. I remember that my friend, a friend of mine, she wanted to take her son to the park, and DeSantis had already lifted the orders, and she's like, "Oh, the parks are open." And when she got to I can't remember what district it was, but when she got to the park, they're like, "No, the park is closed because the commissioner said so." The commissioner.
It's terrible.
The commissioner decided that he was just like, okay, well, screw DeSantis. We're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Now, what it took was, I think she got like 3 moms to call in. That was it.
And
that was enough. Do you guys remember first meeting that we ever logged on? Kava was having some kind of environment. It was like an online Zoom meeting. And we were all like hyped up and we're like, let's go on this live right now. I'm never gonna forget that because it goes to show we felt like we weren't doing enough and it was so much. I remember that it was like 5-6 people logged into the Zoom and Kava was like, I want to take a minute to thank the people that have signed on because I had never seen that. And then of course me and Linda posted it on our ranks. Before you know it, there was like 120 people in the room. They had never seen that before. The same thing happened with the school board meeting. First school board meeting that we were at, the teachers union was already in offensive. Before a parent had even spoken, Carla Marks got up on her mic and disavowed every single person in that room as a right-wing QAnon conspiracy theorist. They were already in the office. They were already in the offense. And I remember being in the mix of that like early last year and feeling like we're not doing enough. There's not enough people showing up. We need more people. And it was enough. So imagine if enough people just realize that it's like, dude, like, I can't take care of the corner in Oklahoma. I can't go fight for you in Texas. If people realize that it's like, start with your city, start with your community, start with your school board, start with your state reps, which I think it's a great way to segue into what a lot of people don't understand how basic politics work.
100%. And I think Florida is the beacon of hope for the United States. I mean, let's be honest. If it wasn't for Ron DeSantis and the great legislators that we have in the Florida House, bro, guess what? We'd be New York right now, right? We'd be Seattle. We'd be California. Now, do I think that we can do more? 1,000% we could do more. That's where I'm running.
Go. Like, what are some of the top policies that you would adopt?
Well, for starters, right? We just talked about parents. I think parents need more help, right? Another thing is that, you know, DeSantis is huge right now on constitutional carry. And we can look at a place like Texas and we could look at a place like, for example, Chicago, and you could see the difference of what happens when people are trained with weapons, understand and respect firearms.
So you would back up the constitutional carry?
1,000% I would back up constitutional carry. 1,000% I would back up parents and their choices. I have kids. I protect my kids. And guess what? When you have the ability to protect your kids, when I have a gun and you're coming into the room with your gun, you know what's up.
Did you think that the age limit for the parental built right to education was too low like we did? Because it stops at third grade.
I'm going to be honest with you. I did. And I think that's something that the legislator is going to revisit in 2023, perhaps 2024. I think that we need to put that age limit higher.
Yeah,
right?
Way higher.
But I also understand that, you know, sometimes, you know, you get a little bit, then you get a little bit more, then you get a little bit more. But we are not based enough. That's just the reality of it.
We're not based
right?
enough. And
Disney comes out.
And it really bothers me when I have someone tell me that, oh, well, like they just make an excuse for that.
Right.
Oh, well, it's because, we it's better to negotiate like this. I go, we literally have the left right now saying that we should expand the court, that we should they want to remove Clarence Thomas from the Supreme Court. I mean, they say the most outlandish shit.
Probably the greatest Supreme Court justice of all time, Clarence Thomas. You want to remove him from the court. Clarence Thomas has a great quote, right? Which tells you everything you need to know about this judge. He has a quote that says, "There is good law that is unconstitutional, and there is bad law that is constitutional." That tells you where that man's bias is. And it tells you that he's a fair judge and he's going to read the Constitution for what it is and not allow his bias to go in. This is what justices and judges are supposed to do. Not people that are just trying to throw their radical theories out there and push them down your throat, right?
There were a couple bills that Sabatini proposed that obviously the people, either Chris, Speaker of the House, blocked them or it just didn't get enough attention. One of them being banning trans surgery for children,
right?
Which I'm about it. I know
seems like a no-brainer.
Seems like a no-brainer. It didn't pass, or nothing was done in this last legislative session. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think that it is atrocious. Look, let's just say this, right? If a 5-year-old wants to get a face tattoo, right? They can't do that, right? That would be child abuse, right? But if a 5-year-old supposedly is told by somebody that they should cut off their penis,
right?
That's okay. No.
Mutilation.
No,
and I've
absolutely
seen the most
not.
disgusting arguments online because they mostly do it to teens. Like when they're little, they don't start like the hormone therapy or
they haven't started
whatever.
those fights yet.
They haven't, but they started in teens nowadays. Why do they do that? Their entire ideology is that why would you let somebody go through the wrong puberty?
Right.
It's literally like the most godless statement that I've ever read online. I'm like,
right. And it's because
puberty?
it's because the left always finds a way to flip things because they're activists. So let's talk about the parental rights bill, right? The Don't Say Gay bill, right? I was actually in Tallahassee when they were debating that. And guess what? A whole bunch of Dems bring in this squad of activists with their signs and they're literally out there screaming. Why don't we as conservatives have our people out there protesting? Because I know thousands of parents, thousands of Christians, thousands of just moms that would go out there and protest. No, I don't want you to teach my kids about this. I want to have control over what my kids learn, right? Why are we not out there fighting, man? Fighting. Why are conservatives
very
fighting?
Complacent, and they'll always have the excuse that I have to work. A
know
lot
what I
of
find-
people give you that
Yeah,
answer.
they tell us
I
all the
work.
time.
I work.
I'm
It's
busy.
like,
And then they tell you,
okay.
thank you for what you're doing. I wish I could, but I'm busy. I've got work.
But to that point, right? To that point, people want to be part of a movement. And sometimes you just need to do the hard work and show people that there is a way to make a difference, right? I've told you guys before, Tupac has that one quote where he says, I may not change the world, but I want to be, but all I want is to be a spark in the mind of the person that changes the world. And to be honest with you, that's why I'm running. And that's why I want to win. And that's why I want to be a legislator. Because I want to show everyday people that if you try and you put your mind to it and you love this country and you love this state and you love your community, you can go out there and you can fight and you can make a freaking difference, man. But just try.
You got to try.
We also had to look into the CDC. I know that DeSantis had a big fight with the CDC over the cruise lines, over this or that. I think that, and maybe this is not perhaps the conversation right now, but there's got to be a way that we remove powers from the CDC.
And
Well,
I think
they don't have any powers. I think that
Right.
we have to remove the illusion that they have any power.
And I think that is proof right there, right? Because we were just talking about how COVID is proof that our local government is so important, right? Because you have this freaking person in the White House that is shoving all this stuff down your throat. But guess what? We had a strong governor who stood up for us, right? And thus you have all these people moving to this state because it's such a free, great state and is leading the nation and showing them, hey, listen, you could be like Florida, or you could be like California, or you could be like New York. It just goes to show you how important our local politics is, right?
So, Rob, one of the things that Linda and I have been talking about very much recently is that we find that most people take civics in the 7th grade, and then they completely forget how it is that this country operates. Can you very quickly kind of go over why is the role of a state rep? Why should people care about who's running for state representative?
State representatives are extremely important. You know, you have state representatives like David Barrero who actually helped pass the anti-communism bill so that your kids are not being shoved communism down their throat. You have other state representatives like Juan Fernandez Barquin who passed the anti-riot bill, whereas we had people in Chicago that were looting and going nuts, and people in Seattle that were going nuts and attacking police. And he's one of the people that championed that bill with Ron DeSantis to make sure that we backed the blue and made sure that our police officers were protected, right? Things like the parental rights bill, these are things that state legislators decide for us and our families every single day. That's why I am running for state representative of District 119, because I love my community, I love my children, and I'm going to protect my children, my wife, and my family, and I'm going to protect your children, your wife, your husband, your family while I do that, right? Because I'll be damned if they take this state from me. This state is a beacon of hope for the rest of the nation, right? And Ron DeSantis and President Trump are leading the way to show the rest of the nation what they could be and where we could go and how we can save America. I want to be part of history. And I want to help. I want to help as much as I can. And I'm telling you right now, if you put the wrong people in these positions, right, it's not going to be good. Literally, Ron DeSantis almost lost to a guy, right? He almost lost to a guy who later gets caught in a hotel with a male prostitute doing drugs, right?
That's how close.
Wow.
That's how close we were.
Wow.
Yep.
These things are very important. These things are very important, and I think people know they're important. I knock on doors every day, and I talk to young people who are straight up like, all right, tell me what your platform is. All right, tell me what you're going to do. And I love answering those questions because I feel like every time you find a young person that wants to know these things, our country's in the right direction. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I guess to wrap it up, give us like one Rob point that's maybe that you're not seeing other state reps out there pushing. What would kind of be like your groundbreaking move that you feel like, I want to go out there and I really want to do this, and I know that I want to break the mold doing this?
I'm not a weak human being, man. I'm the type of person that when I want to get something done, I am going to get it done. And I will fight for what I believe God wants me to fight for and what I have in my heart to fight for. So when I say that I'm going to be a state representative that's going to fight for the people, I am going to be based and fight. I'm not going to sit on my hands. I'm not going to wait until, hey, maybe this happens, maybe this doesn't happen. No, we need people that are willing to go up there and fight and willing to do anything that it takes in order to protect the people of our districts and the people of Florida. And that's who I am. That's what a lot of politicians don't do. And I'm not a politician. I'm just some dude from Miami that loves this country, that loves this state, and that loves his kids and his family. And I'm gonna fight for them like I'm gonna fight for you.
Amazing.
I mean, I don't even know how you follow that. Like, that's it. Like, make him president already.
So
Thank you,
Rob,
man.
so our viewers and our followers, where can they find you? Tell us your social media.
They can actually go on robjgonzalez.com, which is my website. You can see my platform there. You can see everything that I'm about, right? You can also follow me on Instagram at Rob J. Gonzalez FL. Rob J. Gonzalez, Florida, at Rob J. Gonzalez FL. You can follow me on Instagram with that. You can follow me on Facebook with the same, at Rob J. Gonzalez FL. And you can follow me on Twitter with at Rob J. Gonzalez FL. You can follow me on Truth with at Rob Gonzalez, because I was able to get that one.
I love it. Everybody got their name secured on Truth.
But another thing, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter, because I am going to get elected. And when I do get elected, I want it to be I want it to be open to the public. I want to be that person that shows you what the legislative process is, that you can follow and you can see what's going on in Tallahassee. I want to have you guys come up to Tallahassee and see what is getting debated on the floor, because I feel like young people and people in general, man, the public need to know what is going on and how legislators make these decisions. And when the public goes up there, guess what? It's going to be really hard to ignore what the people want.
Yep, absolutely. That's amazing. Well, Rob, thank you so much for coming to our show.
Thank you so much for having me, man.
being a part of this journey with us for the last year.
Thank you for having me,
It feels,
guys.
you know, having you run, I've told you before, it feels like it's a win for all of us. And when you get elected,
you.
it's absolutely going to be a win that we're all going to celebrate together.
Absolutely. And with that being said, guys, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Help us grow. We've been doing amazing, but we need more help. Have a good night.
Have a great night, guys.